Everyone in New York's elite circles knew that Chloe Vanderbilt's boy toy was off-limits. But as her actual husband, I was determined to tear him down. The first time I slapped her boy toy, Leo, Chloe didn't come home for 2 weeks to appease him. The second time, I gave Leo $3 million to get lost. So Chloe threw down $30 million to keep him by her side. The third time, I sent Leo out of the country behind her back. That same night, she kidnapped my parents and strapped bombs to their chests, all to force me to tell her where he was. My voice was a raw whisper. If I don't tell you, will you really let them die? She leaned in, her dark eyes reflecting my ashen face. You're welcome to find out. He's in Zurich, Switzerland, I said, my voice trembling. In the villa that's under my name. She stared at me for a few seconds, judging if I was lying, then picked up her phone to make a call. After getting confirmation, she grabbed her coat and rushed towards the door to get him. My parents, I lunged, grabbing her sleeve. You promised you'd let them go if I told you. She glanced back, her eyes cold and distant. An abandoned factory in the South Bronx. Go find them yourself. I stumbled out the door and sped toward the South Bronx. When I found them, the timer on the bomb showed 10 minutes remaining. My parents were tied to chairs, their mouths taped shut. The moment they saw me, they started shaking their heads violently, trying to tell me to run. I rushed forward, my hands shaking as I fumbled with the ropes, but the ticking of the bomb was a death sentence counting down. 3:21, 3:20. I couldn't get the knots undone, my fingers clumsy with panic. Suddenly, my father slammed his body into me, sending me stumbling backward. The next second, he threw himself against the bomb. The explosion was deafening, and a wave of heat slammed me to the ground as my vision went crimson. When I woke up, I was in hospital. My parents were severely injured, but thank God they were alive. I knelt by their beds, sobbing. I'm so sorry. I chose the wrong person. My mother weakly lifted her hand and stroked my hair. Silly boy, you just have to start over. She'll never let me go. I choked out. When I first found out about Leo, I couldn't accept it. I tried to file for divorce, but every time I drew up the papers, Chloe would tear them to shreds. She insisted she was just having fun with Leo, that she'd dump him when she got bored. She claimed I was her true love and that she would never let me go. My father squeezed my hand. No, Ethan, there's something you don't know, something she's likely forgotten. When we first agreed to the marriage, your mother and I had her sign a divorce agreement. I froze. If she ever betrayed you, my father's voice was soft, the agreement would become active. You could divorce her immediately, and our family would disappear forever. I stared at him, tears streaming down my face. All this time, my parents had prepared an escape for me. The next day, I did 2 things. First, my parents and I took the signed divorce agreement to our lawyer's office. After reviewing it, the lawyer nodded. This is legally binding. The divorce is effective immediately. Second, our family began the process of erasing our legal identities. Once it was complete, it would be as if I never existed. Chloe Vanderbilt would never find me. We learned the process would take 2 weeks. After talking it over with my parents, we decided I had to go back to the Vanderbilt estate. For the next 15 days, I had to stay by Chloe's side and act as if nothing was wrong. If she suspected anything with her resources, none of us would ever get away. Back at the mansion, I started getting rid of things. The photos I once cherished, the love letters Chloe had written me, the souvenirs from our travels. I threw them all into the fireplace. The flames consumed the past, incinerating a foolish dream. The next day, I went to the backyard. There was a grove of sycamore trees Chloe had planted for me with her own hands. She'd said they symbolized faithfulness, a love like hers that would never fade. I picked up an axe and began to chop them down one by one. The staff watched from a distance, too afraid to approach or intervene. The dull, grating crack of each trunk splitting sounded like a stubborn obsession being violently severed. On the third day, I drove up to Lover's Leap. A padlock engraved with our names was fastened to the railing. I remembered when Chloe led me here, tossing the key over the edge and promising we'd be locked together for life. Now, I took a pair of bolt cutters and snapped the lock clean off. It clattered onto the pavement with a sharp metallic ring. I turned and walked away without a single glance back. When I got back to the mansion, two people were in the living room. Chloe was on the sofa, and next to her was Leo, looking so pale and frail a strong breeze could have knocked him over. I walked past them without a word, heading for the stairs. "Stop!" Chloe's cold voice commanded. I paused but didn't turn around. "Do you know why I brought him back?" "I don't care. After you sent him away, he couldn't adjust. He hasn't slept for days," she said, her voice laced with blame. "Ethan apologized to him." I finally turned to face them. Leo clutched Chloe's sleeve timidly, but I saw a flicker of triumph in his eyes. "And if I don't?" I asked calmly. "It's fine, really," Leo said, putting on a brave face. "I can take it. After all, you're Ms. Vanderbilt's husband." Chloe immediately pulled him closer. "Haven't I told you not to be so damn reasonable?" She squeezed his hand. "With me here, you can do whatever you want." A bitter, ironic smile touched my lips. A maid brought in a bowl of calming broth specially prepared for Leo. Just then, Chloe's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and said softly to Leo, "You know how business talk gives you a headache. I'll take this outside. You finish your soup." With that, she stood up and left the room. I stood frozen, my heart feeling as if it had been split with an axe. She never used to take business calls out of the room. She was paranoid about corporate secrets. But for Leo, she was willing to break even that rule. Only Leo and I remained in the living room. The frail look on his face vanished, replaced by a victor's smirk. "You see," he sneered, "you may be the husband, and you used that to get rid of me, but Chloe's body and soul belong to me." I looked at him coolly. "You want her? She's all yours." Leo stared, then his face twisted in anger. "I don't need you to give her to me. She'll be mine soon enough, and your place will be mine, too." When he saw I wasn't reacting, his fury grew. Just then, we heard Chloe's footsteps approaching. A vicious glint appeared in Leo's eyes. He grabbed the bowl of steaming hot broth and dumped it all over himself. He let out a piercing scream as tears instantly streamed down his face. Chloe burst in to see the aftermath. "Look at this mess," broth dripping from his clothes, his eyes red with tears. "Ethan," she roared, her face a mask of fury. "It's bad enough you wouldn't apologize, but now you do this." "I didn't do it," I said calmly. "Check the security cameras." "Fine, I will," she sneered. Leo immediately grabbed her arm, his voice thick with fake tears. "Chloe, it wasn't his fault. I was wrong to think I could stay with you. I'll leave right now." He took one step before Chloe yanked him back. "I just got you back and you're trying to leave me again. Do you want to kill me?" She clutched him as if he were a priceless jewel she had almost lost. Then her gaze fell on me, cold and terrifying. "I'm going to make this right for him." I was thrown into the walk-in freezer. As the bodyguard shoved me inside, I struggled, screaming, "Chloe, check the cameras." It wasn't me. She didn't even spare me a glance, her voice flat and cold. "There's no need." I believe him. The heavy door slammed shut, plunging me into darkness and a biting cold that swallowed me whole. I curled into a ball in the corner, my body shaking, but my heart felt even colder than the freezing air. So, this was what it felt like to be the person she loved most. Tears streamed down my face. I've always run cold and hated being cold. After we married, Chloe spent a fortune on a state-of-the-art climate control system for the house, making even the gardens feel temperate year-round. In the winter, she'd take my icy hands and feet and warm them against her body, smiling as she said, "I'll keep you warm like this for the rest of our lives." Looking back, I guess promises are only true in the moment they're made. The next day, just as I was about to lose consciousness from the cold, the door finally opened. A bodyguard stood there, his face impassive. "Ms. Vanderbilt says, next time, the punishment won't be this easy." I leaned against the wall and staggered out, shaking so violently my teeth chattered. There won't be a next time. Very soon, I was going to get her out of my life for good. That evening, Chloe's assistant delivered a tuxedo and some jewelry, informing me that my presence was required at a charity auction. I went, and there at the entrance to the ballroom, I saw Leo. He was dressed in a designer suit, and the custom necklace he wore was the same one Chloe had bought for a seven-figure sum at an auction last month. I stopped in my tracks and looked at her. He's here. Why did you even bother bringing me? Her expression was nonchalant. I wasn't planning on it, but he's never been to an event like this and wanted to see it. She paused, then added casually, Ethan, don't be so petty. I trembled slightly. It wasn't about being petty. It was that she hadn't given a single thought to the humiliation of parading her husband and her boy toy in front of everyone, leaving me to be the subject of whispers and mockery. Chloe walked right in with Leo, who was holding her hand affectionately. I heard someone whisper nearby, Miss Vanderbilt and her husband look so good together. A perfect match. You've got the wrong guy, another voice corrected. That's her husband over there. The one with her is just the boy toy she keeps. The first person glanced at me, embarrassed. Well, no wonder I was confused. She dresses the boy toy in designer clothes and give her husband the promotional gift. I clenched my fists so tightly my nails dug into my palms. When the auction started, I casually bid on a few pieces. But whatever I bid on, Leo would immediately outbid me by a single dollar. I could hear the quiet snickers around me. The husband getting publicly humiliated by the boy toy. Now that a new one. My expression was blank as I made the gesture for lighting up the sky. It was an auction term that meant I was buying out the lot no matter the price. There was no upper limit. Leo's face went white, and he tugged on Chloe's sleeve. Chloe, but I really wanted that. Chloe frowned at me. Ethan, let him have it. No, I said. He can't afford to light up the sky, but I can because I'm your husband and our assets are communal. I shot a look at Leo, my voice dripping with sarcasm. No matter how many gifts she buys you, you'll never measure up to me. Leo's face went deathly pale. He shot to his feet, then covered his face and started to sob. He's right. You're her husband. I'm just a secret boy toy who should know his place. Chloe, we should just end this. With that, he turned and fled. Chloe's expression hardened. She grabbed my wrist, her grip like steel. I told you I'd get bored of him eventually. Did you have to drive him away? I met her gaze calmly. What does it matter to me if he leaves? Her eyes were dark with fury. She shoved my hand away and stormed out after him. I stood there feeling the stares of mockery and pity from those around me, but I didn't care. I would be gone soon anyway. The next morning, however, I was jolted awake by a news alert on my phone. Breaking 999 private photos of Vanderbilt CEO's husband to be auctioned at Sue's. The blood froze in my veins. Only Chloe had those pictures. My hand shook as I dialed her number, my voice raspy. Was it you who leaked the photos? I heard her cold laugh on the other end. You like lighting up the sky so much, don't you? If you don't want the world to see those pictures, her voice was cruel. You'd better get over there and buy every last one of them. In the background, I could hear Leo's voice. Chloe, is that Ethan? Maybe I should just go. I shouldn't be here. Don't be ridiculous. Her voice instantly softened into a caress. I then heard the unmistakable sound of a kiss. I'm doing all this for you. Just try and leave me now. The line went dead, and I felt as if I'd been plunged into a frozen abyss. I raced to the auction house. The moment I pushed open the doors, my entire body started to shake. The room was packed, and a massive screen was cycling through my private photos. There was one of me sleeping, a profile shot she once said was handsome and had insisted on keeping. There was a shot of my back in the shower, one she'd coaxed me into letting her take, so she could look at it when she missed me. There were pictures of me in bed, covered in marks she claimed were proof of her love. All around the room, eyes were glued to me, and the sound of their whispers felt like needles in my ears. Nice body. Look at those abs. Vanderbilt is a lucky woman. I heard she used to be crazy about him. Why would she sell his private photos now? Probably got bored. You know how it is with these guys who marry into money. All glamour on the outside, but behind closed doors. Every word was a dagger in my heart. I suddenly remembered how possessive Chloe used to be. One year on a tropical vacation, I was about to take my shirt off to sunbathe when a couple of women glanced my way. Chloe immediately dragged me back to our hotel room, pushed me against the floor-to-ceiling window, and sat on my lap, cooing until I repeated after her, Ethan belongs to Chloe, and now to defend another man. She was selling my most private moments for this crowd to gawk at. I bought back every single photo. With each click of the bidding paddle, A piece of my heart turned to ice. By the time I secured the final picture, any love I had left for her was gone. As I walked out of Sue's, my phone rang. "Did you have fun lighting up the sky?" Chloe's voice dripped with scorn. I gripped the phone so hard my nails dug into my skin. "Aren't you afraid I'll divorce you for this?" Her tone was placid, as if she were speaking to a misbehaving child. "You can't, Ethan. I won't sign the papers, so we can't get divorced." I said nothing. She had truly forgotten about the agreement in my possession, the one bearing her signature. When I didn't respond, her tone softened. "Today was just a lesson. I told you if you just leave Leo alone, I'll come back home eventually. Your birthday is in a few days. I'll throw you a party to make it up to you." I was about to refuse, but she had already hung up. Over the next few days, I saw Leo's posts all over Facebook. The latest was a photo of him and Chloe on a yacht captioned, "I said I wanted to see the ocean, so she bought me an island." Further down, "She's allergic to cats, but she got a rag doll for me." And another, "Her entire camera roll is just pictures of me." Before, this would have been suffocatingly painful. Now I felt nothing. Chloe had been staying at Leo's place, only stopping by the mansion occasionally. She didn't even notice the things I'd removed. I figured I could disappear completely, and she wouldn't even realize I was gone. On the day of my birthday party, Chloe came to pick me up herself. She was alone in the car. "No Leo today?" I asked blandly. She frowned. "I'm going to keep you two separate from now on, so you won't keep getting upset." I smirked. She wasn't trying to spare my feelings. She was trying to protect Leo from me. In her mind, I was already the villain. The party was extravagant. Chloe held my hand the entire time, presenting me with a designer watch and a famous painting, even whispering, "Are we all better now?" I looked at her, remembering all the times she had made me angry and then placated me just like this. I always softened. I always forgave her. But this was different. She had gambled with my parents' lives, crushed my dignity, and sold my privacy to the highest bidder. Even if she laid the world at my feet, wouldn't be enough. I was about to speak when the ballroom doors swung open. Leo stood there in a white suit, looking timid and lost. Chloe's expression soured. "Didn't I tell you to wait at the house?" His eyes were rimmed with red. "I wanted to celebrate Ethan's birthday. I even brought a gift." "I don't want to see you," I said coldly. But Chloe was already signaling for a waiter to find Leo a seat, whispering to me, "He came all this way to be nice. Just let what happened last time go." It was supposed to be my birthday party, but Chloe's attention was entirely on Leo. When the band started to play, she took my hand to lead me to the dance floor, but then she caught sight of Leo looking for Lauren. She dropped my hand, turned, and walked over to him. I stood in the corner and watched them dance, feeling nothing but a cold numbness. After the song, Leo complained his shoes were pinching his feet, and Chloe immediately left to buy him a pair of sneakers. He used the chance to approach me, flashing his phone screen. "You probably didn't know, Ethan, but your birthday gifts, they're all the things I rejected. She had to get my permission just to come here, and she's been messaging me every minute." He proudly showed me the message history. "See," she wrote, "Baby, just hang in there. I'll be back with you soon." My heart was a dead weight in my chest. "What is it you want?" I asked. "I want you out of the picture," he said. "Soon," I told him, "even I will be completely out of the picture." Leo narrowed his eyes, considering my words. Just when I thought he believed me, he grabbed my hand and used it to slap himself hard across the face. The slap echoed through the room. Chloe rushed back just in time to see Leo clutching his cheek. "Ethan," she screamed, furious. "You're hurting him again." "I didn't touch him," I said. "I saw the whole thing." She grabbed my wrist, her grip tight enough to break bones. "Wasn't the freezer lesson enough for you? I told you whatever you do to him, I'll do 10 times worse to you." Leo shook his head. "It's okay, Chloe. Let go. What are you afraid of when I'm here?" Chloe said tenderly, wiping a tear from his cheek. "I told you you could do anything you want. You could burn the world down, and I'd have your back. Stop being so timid, or people will walk all over you." She then ordered her bodyguards to hold me down. "He hit you," she said to Leo. "Now you hit him back 10 times. Leo feigned fear. "I can't. I'll teach you," she said, taking his hand in hers and guiding it as she slapped me across the face. "That's for fighting back." Another slap. That's for not being a coward. A third, then a fourth. The pain was so intense, my vision swam and my ears rang. But I bit my tongue and refused to make a sound. She only stopped after the 10th slap. I could hear the guests whispering, "How awful." And on his birthday, he deserved it for being a bully. Chloe gently took Leo's hand in hers. "Did that hurt? Let's go get some cream for it." She helped him up and led him away without a backward glance. The bodyguards let me go, and I slumped to the floor, my face on fire. But the pain in my heart was 1,000 times worse. "Chloe, I regretted it all. I regretted ever loving you. God, how I regretted it." I stumbled out of the ballroom, my cheek throbbing and the blood on my lip already starting to dry. I didn't call for my driver. I drove myself to the emergency room. As the doctor treated the cut, I stared at my reflection. One side of my face was swollen and red. My lip was split, and my eyes were bloodshot. Pathetic. I tried to smirk, but the movement pulled at the cut, and I hissed in pain. After my face was patched up, I headed back to my car, but two people blocked my way in the parking garage. It was Leo's parents. They stood on either side of my door, their voices pleading, "Mr. Miller, please stop holding on to your position as Ms. Vanderbilt's husband. Have some pity on us and step aside for our son." I stared at them coldly. "Get out of my way. Our son truly loves her, Mr. Miller. Please, just let them be happy." I said, "Move." I had no patience for this. I pushed past them and pulled my car door open. But the instant my foot hit the accelerator, Leo's father threw himself in front of my car. There was a sickening thud. Before I could even process what had happened, he was on the ground, clutching his leg and screaming. His wife shrieked and ran to him, crying, "Honey." I sat there frozen, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. He had thrown himself at the car. It was deliberate, but there was no time to think. I had to get out and take him to the ER. In the hospital hallway, Leo came running. The second he saw me, he swung without a word. The slap sent my head snapping to the side, my ears ringing. "Ethan," Leo screamed, his voice filled with anguish. "Do whatever you want of me, but why would you hurt my parents?" The fresh stitches on my cheek split open, but I felt nothing. "He threw himself in front of the car," I said, my voice flat. "If you're going to lie, at least make a good one." Chloe's sharp voice cut through the air from behind me. "Why on earth would Leo's father throw himself at your car? Ethan, when did you become so cruel?" I looked at her, my heart already a raw, bloody pulp. She didn't even bother to ask for details. Just assumed I'd done it on purpose. It was as if she'd completely forgotten how she used to love me. A doctor hurried out. "The patient has lost a lot of blood and needs a transfusion. He's type A. Is there a donor available?" Leo shook his head, sobbing. "I'm his son. I can't donate." Chloe's eyes landed on me. "He's type A, make him do it." My head snapped up. "No, you hit him. You're responsible," she said, her eyes dark. "If he doesn't make it, I will destroy you." A chill ran through me, and my voice shook. "Are you going to threaten my parents' lives again? Are you going to try to kill me?" Just like before, her pupils constricted for a moment as if my words had struck a nerve, but a second later, her face hardened again. She ordered her bodyguards, "Take him. Draw his blood." They forced me into the donation chair. I felt a sharp pain as the needle went in and my fingers trembled. As the blood bag filled, my vision started to blur. I remembered how I used to be anemic, and Chloe would panic if I got so much as a paper cut. Now she was having her men hold me down while they drained my blood to save a con artist. The world faded to black, and I passed out. It was dark when I woke up again. I dragged my weak body out of bed, ready to leave. As I passed one of the rooms, I heard Leo's voice from inside. "Mom, Dad, this is Chloe, my girlfriend." I stopped dead. Through the crack in the door, I saw Chloe on Leo's arm, her voice soft. "Mr. and Mrs. Davis, please don't worry. I'll take good care of Leo from now on." His mother was beaming. "Oh, that's wonderful. Our Leo is so lucky to have found a girl like you." I stood there in the hallway, suddenly remembering how years ago Chloe had stood just like that, holding my arm, and solemnly told my parents, "Mr. and Mrs. Miller, don't worry. We're going to be so happy together." She was saying the same words, but now they were for another man. "So, Chloe, your promises came with an expiration date." I left the hospital and checked the time. 3 days left until our identities were officially erased. In 3 days, my parents and I would be gone for good. No matter how hard Chloe searched, she would find no trace of us. Back at the mansion, I quickly packed what little I intended to take. A few changes of clothes, my ID, my passport. I wanted nothing else from that house. I was just zipping my passport into my bag when the bedroom door flew open. Chloe stood in the doorway with a tearful Leo behind her. My father is stable, but he's not young. This has been a terrible ordeal for him. Leo sobbed, tears rolling down his cheeks. Chloe gently wiped his tears away. Don't cry. I'm making it right, aren't I? She paused. What do you want from him? As long as it's not too extreme, I'll make it happen. Leo glanced at me shyly and whispered, I want him to spend a few days in jail. Chloe's brow furrowed. Leo, that's going too far. I know you feel bad for him, Leo said, grabbing her sleeve, his eyes red-rimmed. But my father was badly hurt. If Ethan doesn't learn his lesson, he'll just keep hurting us. He bit his lip, his voice dropping to a whisper. It's just for a few days, so he knows not to do it again. Chloe, I know he's the one you really love, and I'm just a distraction. If you can't do it, then maybe we should just end things. Chloe was silent for a moment before letting out a resigned sigh. Don't say that. I'll do what you ask. And just like that, I was taken to a holding cell. Chloe left without even looking at me. As for Leo, once he was sure she was gone, he turned back, gave me a chilling smile, and whispered something to the guard while pressing a thick wad of cash into his hand. The next 3 days were the longest nightmare of my life. I was shoved, cursed at, and tripped. My knees were scraped raw. No one cleaned my cuts, and no one gave me any water. I huddled in the corner, gritting my teeth and counting down the time. In 3 days, I would be free. On the evening of the third day, the steel door finally creaked open. Chloe was standing in the doorway, silhouetted against the light, so I couldn't see her face. As I got closer, I saw her flinch. What happened to you? My clothes were filthy. My arms and knees were a mess of bruises and scrapes, and there was dried blood caked on my lip. Leo immediately linked his arm with hers. He probably did that to himself to make you feel sorry for him. He pouted. He was only in there for a few days. How bad could it have been? Chloe stared at me for a long moment. Then her face hardened. Ethan, is this drama ever going to end? I managed a weak, bitter smile, too exhausted to even try to explain. Back at the mansion, for once, Chloe didn't leave right away. She sat on the sofa and announced calmly, from now on, I'll spend Mondays and Tuesdays with you. The rest of the week is for Leo. I stood at the foot of the stairs and said nothing. Today is Wednesday, so I should go to him now, she said, getting up. Don't disturb me for the next few days. She paused at the door and added, I'll be back on Monday. I looked at her and said quietly, all right, goodbye. How absurd, as if I would still be here waiting for her. Chloe frowned, seemingly surprised by my detached tone, but she didn't say anything else before turning and leaving. The second the front door clicked shut, my phone buzzed. It was a text. Mr. Miller, your identity eraser has been successfully completed. I stared at the message, my eyes welling up as my heart hammered against my ribs. I was free. I grabbed the bag I had packed days ago and walked out of that mansion for the last time, never looking back. At the airport, my parents were waiting for me at the gate. When my mother saw me, she hugged me tightly. Her eyes read, Ethan, it's over. It's all finally over. My own eyes were burning as I nodded. Yeah, it's over. 6 years ago, on a snowy night, Chloe had knelt at my family's door, promising to carve my name into her very soul. Today, I was the one doing the carving, cutting her out of my life completely. Here are your boarding passes, sir, the gate agent said politely. I took the passes, and holding my parents' hands, I walked toward the jet bridge. I kept my back straight, my steps firm and unwavering. From this moment on, Chloe Vanderbilt would no longer exist in my world. The plane ascended, cutting through the clouds as we flew towards a new life. In a city as vast as New York, the disappearance of one ordinary family would go unnoticed. At that very moment, Chloe was with Leo, curled up on his couch, watching a movie. For no reason at all, a sudden panic seized her. A hollow feeling as if something precious had just been ripped away from her forever. Leo noticed her distraction and looked up. What's wrong? Nothing. It's probably nothing, Chloe said, shaking her head and pulling him closer with a small smile. Baby, your mind is wandering while you're with me. I'm going to have to punish you for that. He playfully tickled her, but she didn't react. He finally gave up, exasperated. What's with you? You're not ticklish at all. Chloe chuckled softly. That punishment doesn't work. We'll have to try another. Her hand slid down to his stomach, and soon they were a tangle of limbs, laughing and wrestling on the couch. At some point, the playful wrestling turned into something else. They drew closer, their lips met, and the room filled with a charged energy. They spent the next 3 days wrapped up in each other. But Chloe's initial satisfaction soon faded into boredom. She was losing interest. Leo tried everything he could think of to excite her, but Chloe remained distant. It wasn't the activities she was tired of. It was him. Being with the same person all the time was starting to feel dull. Most importantly, Ethan hadn't messaged her in a long time. He was doing exactly what she told him to do, leaving her alone when she wasn't with him. This was what she wanted. So why did it leave a sour taste in her mouth? Chloe glanced at her phone, at her iMessage history with Ethan. Their conversations, once endless, had dwindled to almost nothing. Their last call was days ago after the auction. She frowned, a strange anger bubbling up inside her. She had told him not to bother her. But did he have to take it so literally? Did he even remember he was her husband? Chloe found herself tapping on his contact photo over and over, hoping a new message would appear, but nothing ever did. She hesitated, wondering if she should call him. Before she could make up her mind, Leo covered her eyes from behind. Guess what surprise I have for you, he whispered mysteriously, his body brushing against her neck in a way that was clearly meant to be seductive. Startled, Chloe's fingers slipped and tapped the screen, accidentally dialing the number. We're sorry. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. The robotic voice echoed in the quiet room, and both of them froze. Not now, Chloe snapped, pushing Leo away impatiently. She stared at her phone in disbelief and dialed Ethan's number again. The result was the same. How was this possible? Her mind went blank. She couldn't comprehend what was happening. Leo glanced at the contact name and offered some hollow comfort. Chloe, maybe he's just busy, or maybe he's mad at you, jealous of me, and disconnected his number to make you worry and come running back. He's still your husband. Where could he go? He's probably just sitting at home right now, waiting for you to come and apologize. Chloe lowered her gaze, thinking what Leo said made a certain kind of sense. Maybe Ethan was just playing games, waiting for her to panic. She frowned, a wave of irritation washing over her. How long is he going to drag out this little drama? What's the point of these games? She muttered. He's not nearly as sweet and obedient as you are, Leo. Fine, I'll ignore him. We'll see how long he can last, suppressing the unease and anger churning inside her. Chloe pulled Leo back into an embrace, but her heart wasn't in it. She gave him a distracted kiss before pushing him away. She got dressed, straightened her clothes in the mirror, and said, Something's come up at the office. I have to go. You get some rest. Without another glance at Leo, she walked out the door and drove off. Leo, furious, punched a pillow. Damn you, Ethan. You've got your tricks, but I'm not giving her up to you. Chloe really did go to her office, not the mansion. For 2 straight days, she buried herself in work, but her eyes kept drifting to her phone. It rang. It was Leo. She irritably declined the call, but Leo kept calling, his name lighting up her screen again and again. Not once was it Ethan. Monday came and went, and still there was no message, no call. The panic in Chloe's heart grew, fanning the flames of her anger until it was a raging inferno. Just then her assistant burst in. Ms. Vanderbilt, you have a visitor. Before he could finish, she cut him off, a spark of hope in her voice. Is it Ethan? Tell him to wait. After ignoring me for this long, he can wait a little longer. The assistant looked awkward. He bit his lip and said quietly, No, Miss Vanderbilt. It's your business appointment for today. Chloe's hopeful expression froze on her face, the assistant's words not registering for a long moment. What do you mean it's not Ethan? Are you joking? Tell him to come in right now. Postpone the meeting, she said, pinching the bridge of her nose. Her assistant looked pained. "Ms. Vanderbilt, he's really not here. You can go see for yourself if you don't believe me." His words shattered her last bit of denial. She went to the conference room, her face a thundercloud, and her mood only darkened after meeting with her business partner. By the end of the day, there was still no call, no text, no sign of Ethan. Her expression was so grim that employees scurried away in fear. Finally, her patience ran out. She drove home, speeding the whole way. But as night fell and the city lights began to twinkle, the mansion on the hill remained dark and silent. For a moment, she thought she was seeing things. She blinked, looked again, but it was true. The house was completely dark, as if it were empty. The panic she'd been suppressing rose in her throat, and her heart began to hammer against her ribs. "Ethan, what game is this? Playing hard to get won't work on me," she called out as she pushed open the door and flipped on the lights. Frowning, she searched the mansion from room to room, but the entire house was empty, so quiet and still that her own footsteps echoed. A thin layer of dust coated the coffee table. The flowers in the vase were dead and withered, leaving behind only brittle yellowed stems. It was clear no one had been here for days. A wave of desolate panic washed over her. She pressed her lips into a thin line, forcing the panic down. It was impossible. Ethan couldn't divorce her. She was too powerful. He couldn't escape her. She struggled to keep her voice steady. "Ethan, stop playing games. If you come out now, I'll even stay with you for a few extra days. Haven't I told you? I was just having fun with Leo, and I'm already getting bored. You're the one I love. You're irreplaceable. Just give me a little more time, and I'll come home for good. This drama is getting old. Aren't you afraid I might actually divorce you over this?" But no matter what she said, only silence answered her. She searched every room, but he was nowhere. She started to notice that some of his belongings were missing, too. He was really gone. As the reality of it sank in, Chloe's lips tightened and a dangerous energy began to radiate from her. It wasn't just his personal items that were gone. The proof of their life together, the mementos of their shared past, had vanished as well. The backyard was barren. The grove of sycamore trees was gone, leaving nothing but a field of ugly stumps. And that's when true panic finally set in. She had made him angry countless times before, but he had never done anything like this. She had always been able to win him back. But now, the trees she had planted for him, the living symbols of their 6 years together, he had destroyed them. She touched one of the stumps in disbelief. The wood was dry. They hadn't been cut recently. He had done this some time ago, and she hadn't even noticed. Chloe's heart plummeted, plunging her into a dark abyss. Her hand shook as she tried his number again. Unsurprisingly, it was still disconnected. "Where are you?" She typed her first text to him in days. A second later, a red exclamation point appeared next to the message, blocked. It had never occurred to her that he would cut her off so completely. A terrible feeling crept over her. She quickly dialed his parents' number. "We're sorry. The number you have dialed is no longer in service." The same robotic voice over and over, mocking her. His parents had blocked her, too. The entire family was determined to sever all ties with her, but she wouldn't allow it. She hadn't signed any divorce papers. Even if they fled to the ends of the earth, she would find them and drag them all back. Chloe's face was grim as she called her assistant. "Find Ethan's family. I want to know everywhere they've been since the kidnapping. I want a full report immediately. He thinks he can leave me. Not a chance in hell." Her assistant, woken in the middle of the night, stifled a yawn. "Yes, Ms. Vanderbilt. I'll get my team on it right away." But even after hanging up, Chloe couldn't calm the storm inside her. She wandered through the empty mansion, a profound sense of loneliness and desolation creeping into her heart. It felt as if a piece of her heart had been carved out, leaving a gaping void. Lying in their bed, the space beside her empty, she found the silence unbearable. Even though he was gone, she kept seeing him everywhere. She looked at the sofa he'd picked out and could picture him sitting there playing video games. A breeze rustled the curtains on the balcony, the ones he'd insisted on buying the moment he saw them at the store. All those small, warm moments were now just ghosts. She didn't know when it had happened, But their life together had devolved into nothing but jealousy and fighting. Even in bed, they slept on opposite edges, a chasm between them. He would press himself against the far wall, avoiding any chance of contact. They had been so in love. How had it all gone so wrong? A wave of regret washed over her far too late. If she hadn't chased that thrill, if she hadn't kept someone on the side, would things be different? But all the women in her circle did it. One at home, one on the side. Some had several. Plenty of them were far wilder than she was. Leo was so understanding about it. Why couldn't Ethan just accept it? Chloe felt lost and confused. She didn't sleep at all that night, a frantic, gnawing anxiety urging her on. Find him. Find him now, or you'll regret this for the rest of your life. After days of searching, her team finally had news. Her assistant placed a folder and a USB drive on her desk. Ms. Vanderbilt, we have an update. Mr. Miller presented the prenuptial divorce agreement you signed to a lawyer. Legally, your divorce has already been finalized. Furthermore, he and his parents have completely erased their legal identities. We tracked them to a flight to Canada, but after that, with their new identities, the trail goes cold. The assistant's voice trailed off, and he stared at the floor, avoiding Chloe's murderous glare. A dead, terrifying silence filled the room, and only then did Chloe remember. She remembered signing that document before the wedding, a secret deal to appease his parents. She never thought it would ever be used, so the memory of it had faded completely. She never imagined he would one day use it to vanish from her life. Chloe's face was a blank mask, but her hand clenched the report, crushing the papers into a wrinkled ball. A furious storm was gathering in her dark eyes, threatening to break. She forced it down, torturing herself by flipping through the rest of the file. The text and photos detailed everything he had done to prepare for his escape. He had been dead set on leaving her, but Chloe couldn't accept it. I don't care where he is. Find him, she roared, her chest heaving with rage. Search the entire globe if you have to, but find Ethan. She slammed the crumpled report onto her desk. Her assistant looked utterly bewildered. Ms. Vanderbilt, with all due respect, you don't seem to love him as you used to. Isn't this divorce a good thing? Why hold on so tightly? Mr. Miller was never going to accept Leo or any other man. Even if you dragged him back, you'd both just be miserable. Besides, Leo isn't as innocent as you think. This USB drive contains footage of him deliberately setting Mr. Miller up. Perhaps you should watch it. At his words, Chloe's expression darkened. She hesitated for a second, her hand hovering over the USB drive, when Leo himself burst into the office. Chloe, did Ethan send someone to spread lies about me again? He hates me so much. It seems he won't rest until I'm gone. I wanted to stay with you forever, but he's making it impossible. Maybe it's better if I just leave. He lowered his head, covering his face to hide his tears as he made a show of running for the door, just as he had done countless times before. But this time, after a few dramatic steps, he realized no one was coming after him. His tried and true tactic wasn't working. Leo kept glancing over his shoulder, slowing his pace to a crawl. The elevator doors opened, and still she hadn't moved. The heartbroken expression on his face froze, and he stood there, uncertain of his next move. Meanwhile, back in the office, Chloe had plugged in the USB drive. Her face was pale and taut as she clicked through the video files. Clip after clip of security footage showed the truth of the past few months. Ethan had never started anything. It was always Leo deliberately provoking him, deliberately setting him up. Chloe's face was as black as thunder, her eyes flashing with a dangerous light. Get him back in here, she roared, her long fingers clenched into a fist so tight the knuckles cracked. She was incandescent with rage. The assistant hurried out to find Leo, still loitering by the elevators. When Leo saw him approaching, his eyes lit up with a triumphant gleam. The assistant felt a surge of disgust. He'd never understood what Chloe saw in this pathetic creature, and he understood it even less now. In his opinion, Ethan was 1,000 times the man Leo was, but Chloe had thrown him away. Perhaps that's just how it was when the chase was over. It wasn't his place to judge. Seeing the assistant, Leo couldn't suppress a smirk. though he quickly arranged his face into a pout. Did Chloe send you to get me? I'm not going back. You can tell her I'm done being her boy toy. He sniffed, looking wounded, and made another show of leaving. The assistant blocked his path, his face unreadable. I'm sorry, Mr. Davis, but Ms. Vanderbilt wants to see you. You can't leave. With an authority that couldn't be questioned, he began to pull Leo back towards the office. Leo felt a prickle of unease. Something was wrong, but he couldn't figure out what. The office door slammed shut and the lock clicked. Chloe walked up to Leo, her hands closing around his throat. Where did you get the audacity? She hissed. To frame Ethan? Did I spoil you too much? No, it was Ethan. Leo choked out, his face turning purple as he clawed at her hands. The air was leaving his lungs and black spots danced in his vision. Just as he was about to pass out, Chloe released him. She shoved him to the floor, her eyes blazing with a furious hatred. Leo gasped for breath, real tears of terror now streaming down his face, but they no longer had any effect on Chloe. He didn't know how much she had seen, so he fell back on his old act, grabbing the hem of her pants. His eyes were red, his thin frame trembled, and he looked up at her with a wounded expression. Chloe, I didn't do anything. I swear. It's all a misunderstanding. I can explain. Is Ethan just jealous? I can apologize to him, okay? Please don't be like this. I was just worried about you. Chloe looked down at him, a self-mocking sneer on her lips. Had she really let this pathetic creature manipulate her for so long? How laughable. Her face went cold as she kicked his hand away. Don't touch me. You make me sick, Mark, she said to her assistant. I want you to do to him exactly what he did to Ethan 10 times over. Start with 100 slaps. Chloe's merciless words struck Leo like a physical blow. He slumped to the floor, a single thought screaming in his mind. She knows. She knows everything, and she's going to make me pay for what I did to Ethan. Despair washed over him as his mind raced, searching for an escape. As the assistant advanced, Leo scrambled backward, shaking his head frantically. No, please. You can't do this to me. It wasn't my fault. Chloe, you love me, don't you? You don't even like Ethan anymore. I was just helping you get rid of him, he shrieked. Chloe let out a cold, humorless laugh. Who told you I don't love him? I love him. He's the only one I've ever loved. You were just a toy. Who gave you permission to lay a hand on him? Mark, what are you waiting for? Do I have to do it myself? Mark thought to himself, if you really loved him, would you have treated him that way? He didn't understand it, but he did as he was told, striking Leo across the face with all his strength. The force of the blow was immense. In an instant, Leo's face swelled up, the delicate, handsome features gone. He slumped against the wall, genuine tears of pain and fear streaming down his face. All his bravado gone. Chloe, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was so wrong, he begged. Please let me go. I'll apologize to Ethan. Just please don't hit me anymore. You're going to kill me. You'll ruin my face. Leo covered his face with his hands, trying to curl into a protective ball. But Chloe gave no order to stop, so Mark coldly continued. He pried Leo's hands away from his face and struck him again. After several more sharp slaps, Leo was a crumpled, barely conscious heap on the floor. His face was swollen beyond recognition. He didn't care about his looks anymore. All he wanted was to get away. Chloe was insane. He couldn't understand it. The Chloe who had been so gentle, who had spoiled him rotten, had vanished overnight. He thought he had covered his tracks so well. He began to crawl subtly toward the door, but Mark saw him, dragged him back, and the slapping resumed. The continuous sound of the slaps began to grate on Chloe's nerves. She waved a hand dismissively. Take him away. Make sure he stays alive. Have the guards finish the 100 slaps, then lock him in the freezer for 10 days, but keep him alive. He's not done yet, and his parents cut off their medical care. They owe Ethan a debt of blood. It's time they started paying it back. Mark nodded and dragged the whimpering Leo out of the room. He looked back at Chloe, his eyes filled with utter despair. He couldn't understand how it had all come to this. He was finished. His parents were finished. They were all going to be tortured. It was more than he could bear. Leo made one last desperate struggle, lunging at Chloe. Even if I did hurt Ethan, you're the one who encouraged me. It's his fault, too. You can't do this to me and my parents. You promised you'd spoil me. You said I could do anything I wanted, that you'd protect me no matter what. Why are you doing this? Don't you love me anymore?" He knelt on the floor, screaming, demanding an answer, refusing to accept his fate. Chloe's eyes were dark and dangerous. "No," she said impatiently. "I'm bored with you. Now that Ethan's gone, you're not much fun anymore. I'm your benefactor, and you're just my boy toy. My affection was a gift, not a right. You have no say in my affairs. As of today, we are finished. I'll have your things sent back to your parents' house. The apartment is no longer yours. After you've served your punishment, I never want to see your face again." His last hope extinguished, Leo allowed himself to be dragged away, his heart a cold, dead stone. Chloe rubbed her temples, the irritation in her heart growing. With Ethan gone, everything felt dull and meaningless. Even her work, which she usually loved, felt tedious. She was starting to realize that all along she was the one who couldn't live without him, not the other way around. She had taken him for granted, assuming that because he loved her and had nothing of his own, he would be trapped by her side forever. But reality had slapped her across the face. The woman she used to be, the one who had been so deeply in love with him, would have hated the woman she had become. She had loved him, truly loved him, but that love hadn't been strong enough to last. Chloe stared out at the bustling city below, feeling nothing but a vast, hollow emptiness. Her life suddenly felt meaningless. Her phone buzzed on the desk. It was her friend Blake Sterling. "Chloe, darling, a few of us are getting together tonight. Are you coming? Bring that cute boy toy of yours. But leave the husband at home. He's such a bore. No fun at all." Hearing the loud party music in the background, Chloe's brow furrowed in irritation. "Leo and I are over," she said, her voice tight with anger. "And if you ever say another bad word about Ethan, you'd better watch your family stock prices." There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. Blake finally managed a nervous laugh. "Chloe, you're joking, right? You were crazy about that boy toy. What happened?" He paused. "And what about Ethan?" "We're divorced," Chloe said, her voice low and laced with a sorrow she couldn't name. The party on the other end of the line went silent. Someone had even turned off the music. "You're not serious, are you? You really divorced?" When she didn't answer, they knew it was true. Suppressing their delight, they offered clumsy condolences. "Chloe, we know you must be heartbroken. Come have a drink with us. It'll help." After a long pause, Chloe agreed. She arrived at the club and sat in the private booth, downing drink after drink in silence. Her friends tried to console her. "Chloe, Ethan must be an idiot. A guy from his background marrying into the Vanderbilt family. That's like winning the lottery. And he threw it all away. The man has no sense." "Exactly. It's just one guy. Everyone in our circle has someone on the side. You were faithful to him for 6 years. Weren't you allowed a little fun, right? It's not like you had a whole harem. It was just one guy. You get bored, you dump him. What's the big deal?" Their words were hollow, and some of them clearly had their own agendas. Chloe kept drinking, their voices a meaningless, irritating buzz in her ears. She slammed her bottle down on the table with a loud crack, and the room fell silent. She scanned the room, a frown creasing her forehead. "Where are Blake and Bianca Sterling?" Before anyone could answer, Blake himself walked in, a wide grin on his face as he talked on his phone. "Bianca, haven't you been in love with Ethan for years? Well, Chloe actually divorced him. This is your chance. I've been working on this for a long time for you. If you don't take this opportunity, don't blame me for not helping. Who knew our philandering could actually be useful for something? Honestly, all the happy couples in our circle are monogamous. You can't control yourself. You end up with a mess. I might sleep around, but at least I got a vasectomy. I'm not about to marry some nice girl and ruin her life. This is just who I am. I'm here for a good time, but you sis, if you don't get out there and start dating, you're not getting any younger." Blake's tone was light and teasing, but his words to his sister were completely genuine. On the other end of the line, Bianca's voice was quiet but firm. "I'll take this chance. I'm already overseas. I was too late to tell Ethan how I felt before. I won't make that mistake again." Her determined words reached Chloe's ears, and it felt like the world had just tilted on its axis. Chloe was practically vibrating with rage. All this time, they had been manipulating her, encouraging her to betray Ethan. Also, Bianca could have her chance. Her eyes bloodshot, she snatched the phone from Blake's hand. "Bianca," she snarled, "Ethan will only ever love me. I'm going to apologize, and we're going to get back together. He didn't love you then, and he won't love you now. It's impossible." Bianca's voice was calm and steady. "He may not fall in love with me right away. He may never be with me, but at least I'm not you after everything you've done to him. Even if he doesn't choose me, he will never ever go back to you." Chloe's breath caught in her throat, the words a sharp pain in her chest. She forced herself to remain composed, spitting out through clenched teeth, "If you and Blake hadn't been so despicably manipulative, pushing me to neglect him, we never would have gotten to this point." Bianca let out a cold, mocking laugh. "Don't be ridiculous, Chloe. If you were truly devoted to Ethan, do you really think a few words from Blake and his friends could have changed your mind? You know what they're like. They go through partners like they go through clothes. You've known them for years. Our circle is full of players. Faithful people are rare, but they exist. Why didn't you choose to be one of them? Why didn't you treat Ethan right? If you had, I never would have had this chance. This is on you, Chloe. You're the one who betrayed him." Her words were a dagger to the heart. The color drained from Chloe's face, and her lips began to tremble. "No, that's not it," she whispered, shaking her head as if in a trance. The phone slipped from her grasp and clattered to the floor, the sound echoing in the sudden dead silence of the room. Blake and his friends stood there awkwardly, unsure of what to say. It was true that they had encouraged Chloe's affair, telling her it was normal in their circle, that everyone had a little something on the side. But for years, she had never listened. Not until Leo came along. They had all heard the stories about what happened between Leo and Ethan. They knew Ethan. He wasn't a bully. Everyone who knew him knew his character. As for Leo, the less said the better. Only Chloe, blinded by her infatuation, couldn't see him for the hypocrite he was. Blake and the others knew they had played a part in the mess, and they mumbled their apologies. "We're sorry, Chloe. We were out of line," Blake said. "But maybe you and Ethan just weren't right for each other. He went through hell with you. It's a miracle he's still sane. Letting him go is the kindest thing you could do for him." Chloe was silent, a heavy weight crushing her chest, making it hard to breathe. What did she do now? Blame them? They hadn't forced her to do anything. There was no one to blame but herself. She had wanted more excitement, a more thrilling kind of love, and it had led her to this. It was all her fault. Chloe got her own private room and ordered dozens of bottles of liquor, which she began to drink in sullen silence. The liquor burned its way down her throat, but she felt nothing. The more she drank, the clearer her mind became, and the more her heart ached, a sharp, stabbing pain. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice raw, repeating the words over and over again. But the one person who needed to hear her apology was gone. Tears blurred her vision, and suddenly she was seeing him for the first time again. It was an ordinary summer afternoon, and a sudden shower had just begun. He didn't have an umbrella. He was wearing a white shirt, and the rain had soaked it through, making it cling to his skin, almost transparent. The heavy drops plastered his hair to his forehead. She had been driving by and had only glanced at him for a second, but in that second, he had captured her full attention. Her heart had started to pound uncontrollably. In that moment, she knew with perfect clarity that she was smitten. She pulled over, opened the passenger door, and called out, "Do you want to get out of the rain? You look like you could use a towel." He looked up, and when their eyes met, Chloe's heart leaped in her throat. Her mind went completely blank, and the only sound in the world was the frantic beating of her own heart. But he was polite and proper, and he refused without a second thought. "I appreciate the offer, but I'll be fine." When he started to walk away, Chloe did something she had never done before. She threw caution to the wind, grabbed his hand, and pulled him into the car, draping her own jacket over his shoulders. "Don't worry, I'm not getting in with you," she said. The rain shouldn't last long, and then she just stood there foolishly, letting the rain drench her, completely forgetting about the umbrella she had in the back seat. Maybe love had struck so suddenly it had addled her brain. All she knew was that she wanted to spend more time with him. Later, she shamelessly got his number, learned his daily routine, and engineered dozens of chance encounters. She confessed her feelings to him over and over. And the day he finally said yes, she was the happiest person on earth. Chloe had never imagined she could love someone so much. After all, she had the example of her parents. Her father was a monster incapable of love, a philanderer who sought the affection from other women that he himself could not feel until he met her mother. He didn't love her, but he had to possess her. He stole her away from the man she loved, brought her to his home, and forced her to bear his child. Her mother, unable to bear having a child with a man who had ruined her life, and unable to escape him, killed herself right in front of a young Chloe. As a small child, she had witnessed her mother's death and her father's cold, possessive madness. For a long time, she believed she was like her father, incapable of love. But now, she had become a twisted combination of them both. Like her mother, she loved one man with all her heart. And like her father, she had destroyed the person she loved. Chloe drank, blaming herself, hating herself. She drank until all the bottles were empty, a messy pile on the floor around her. She lay on the sofa in a drunken stupor, curled into a tight, insecure ball. The alcohol had perforated her stomach, but she lay there unmoving, her face a pale, vulnerable mask. She endured the pain in silence, a fitting punishment. The pain he must have felt, it must have been 1,000 times worse than this. I'm sorry, she thought. She closed her eyes, her heart a dead, cold thing in her chest. Maybe it would be better to just die here. Darkness closed in, and her consciousness began to fade. In her delirium, she was back in the past. She remembered her stomach problems, the way he, a terrible cook, had learned to make special meals for her, how he would sit with her and make sure she ate at regular times. That simple, everyday warmth was something she would never feel again. Maybe dying wouldn't be so bad. After all, as Bianca had said, he was never coming back. But no matter how much she wished for death, Chloe woke up. Blake and his friends had brought her to the hospital. When she opened her eyes, Blake let out a sigh of relief. Chloe, I know you're upset, but you can't just try to drink yourself to death. If you had died, Ethan would never have known how sorry you are. My sister may be in love with him, but she hasn't found him yet. You still have a chance. And even if you can't get back together, you should at least tell him you're sorry. Do you want him to remember you as a monster? Do you want him to hate you forever? Chloe listened, a flicker of something in her eyes. After a long silence, she nodded. You're right. I have to find him. I have to apologize to him and his family. Explain everything. Maybe he'll forgive me. Blake didn't have the heart to tell her it was a fantasy. A reason to live was better than no reason at all. They didn't want her death on their conscience. When they had found her in that room, barely breathing, they had all been terrified. They had rushed her to the hospital, had her stomach pumped, and saved her life. If they hadn't, she would have died from alcohol poisoning. Seeing that she was stable, Blake and his friends left. Chloe was alone in the empty hospital room. She couldn't sit still. She called her assistant. Any news on Ethan's family? There was a long pause on the other end, then a heavy sigh. Ms. Vanderbilt, after they erased their identities, they flew to Canada, but they didn't stay long. They've changed their identities again. Tracking them by photo alone is extremely difficult. We've identified a few cities they passed through, but we don't know where they are now. The Vanderbilt family's reach isn't as strong overseas. Finding them is like looking for a needle in a haystack. It's going to take time. Chloe pinched the bridge of her nose, forcing down her frustration. Double the resources, keep searching, and give me all the paperwork that needs my physical signature for the next quarter. I want it all done in the next 3 days. Everything else can be handled remotely. I'm going to find him. Her assistant knew she was determined, so he didn't argue. For the next 3 days, from her hospital bed, Chloe worked around the clock. She had to hurry. Bianca was already out there looking for him. She was already behind. She couldn't afford to waste any more time. As soon as the last document was signed, she packed a bag and took the first flight to France, the last country where they had a confirmed sighting of him. On the Champs-Élysées in Paris, Chloe wandered, searching without a destination. She had no idea where to even begin looking for him. She visited every landmark he had ever mentioned wanting to see, but he was nowhere to be found. The initial frantic energy began to fade, replaced by a dull ache of disappointment. A day turned into a week, then two. She lost track of time. She grew thinner, her skin tanned from the long days spent walking outside, but nothing could hide the dark circles under her eyes or the network of red veins that spiderwebbed across them. Every day that passed without finding him was another sleepless night. The emotional agony was 1,000 times worse than any physical pain. If he would just appear, she would let him do anything to her, hurt her in any way he wanted. Anything would be better than this endless, empty searching. So this was what it felt like to wait for someone who might never return. It was a unique and exquisite form of torture. Chloe was consumed by regret. If she could go back, she would gladly destroy the version of herself that had made that first fateful mistake. Her expression was blank as she walked, numbly scanning the crowds. Suddenly, she saw a man from behind who looked just like him. He had his arm around a woman. Her heart plunged into a vat of acid, the pain sharp and unbearable. Chloe's fists clenched, her eyes burning. She stormed forward and punched the woman in the arm. "Get your hands off my husband." "Your husband?" The woman shrieked, incredulous. "Are you insane?" She swung at Chloe, but Chloe caught her fist midair. The man with her quickly stepped in front of her. "Who the hell are you?" "I don't know you." "Come on, honey. Let's go," he said, glaring at Chloe. And in that moment, Chloe realized her mistake. It wasn't him. It was just a man with a similar build. She had completely lost her mind. "I'm sorry," she mumbled. She paid them for their trouble and continued her endless, hopeless search. Before this, she never would have realized how many men in the world looked a little bit like him. Some had his hair, some had his eyes, some even had a similar voice. But none of them were him, and he was the only one she wanted. Just as she was about to give up all hope, a message came through from her assistant. "Ms. Vanderbilt, we found him. He's at this restaurant right now with his parents. I'm sending you the location. Go now." Staring at the map pin and the candid photo of Ethan's profile, Chloe's eyes filled with tears. She took a deep breath, trying to calm herself, and without a thought for her disheveled appearance, she ran to the restaurant. "Ethan." She threw open the door to the private dining room and froze. "Bianca Sterling, what are you doing here?" she demanded, her heart seizing with panic. Bianca looked at her coolly, a small, knowing smile on her lips. "I'm Ethan's girlfriend. Why wouldn't I be here?" The words exploded in Chloe's mind, and a roaring sound filled her ears, drowning out everything else. Bianca's words echoed in her head, driving her to the brink of madness. "How, Ethan? How could she be your girlfriend so soon? Just explain it to me," Chloe pleaded, her eyes red and her voice shaking with a vulnerability she hadn't felt in years. "I didn't even look up from my plate." "It hasn't been that fast," Ethan said casually. "It's been more than 6 months since the divorce. She pursued me for a long time, and I decided to give it a shot. I'm single. Why not?" Chloe's breath caught in her throat. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. 6 months. His casual words were like 1,000 knives, twisting in her heart, turning it to pulp. She fought back a sob. "It's not okay. I can't stand to see you with someone else. You're mine. I love you, only you." She let out a short, harsh laugh. "You say you love me. Is this your way of loving someone by destroying them? If that's love, I don't want it." Her eyes were cold, empty of any affection. Her parents glared at Chloe, their faces hard. "Ms. Vanderbilt," her father said, "you don't belong here. Go back to your life. You can have any man you want. You can play with them and throw them away when you're bored. But our Ethan is not your toy. He's not your punching bag. Do you have any idea how much you hurt him? How much he suffered after marrying you? You threw him in jail. You tormented him over and over. What did he ever do to deserve a monster like you?" My parents grew more and more furious, tears streaming down their faces as they began to hit Chloe, who simply stood there, head bowed, taking the blows. "What about Bianca?" she finally asked, her voice thick with guilt. "She's from a rich family, just like me. Aren't you afraid she'll turn out just the same?" Before any of us could answer, Bianca spoke. "Time will tell if I'm like you. I'm confident I'm not. The day Ethan and I got together, I signed an agreement with him. If I ever betray him, all of my personal assets will be transferred to him. And even if we break up, he will receive half of all my future earnings for the rest of my life. That way, he will always have the resources to fight back if he needs to. If I wrong him, he won't have to suffer in silence. He can punish me directly. I love him, but if the day comes when he no longer loves me, if he wants to be free, he won't have to stay for my sake. Her words left Chloe speechless. Even I was taken aback. Chloe had never imagined Bianca would go to such lengths. To be honest, neither had I. I hadn't realized she was this serious. At first, I assumed she was just one of Chloe's friends, trying to get revenge on Chloe's behalf by toying with my emotions. But as I got to know her, I realized she wasn't like that at all. She was reserved, almost cold with everyone else. But with me, she was warm and open. "Why are you so forward with me?" I asked her once. "It doesn't seem like your personality." She gave me a sad smile. "Because I can't miss this chance. I already lost my chance with you once. If I let you go again, I might never get another. I want to cherish every moment I have with you. I want to be with you forever." I was stunned. I searched my memory, but I couldn't recall ever meeting her before. She explained that she had first seen me in college and had fallen in love with me at first sight. We had crossed paths many times, even made eye contact, but I had never truly seen her. The day I first met Chloe, Bianca had been planning a grand confession of her own, but the sudden downpour had ruined everything. She had been on her way to me with an umbrella, but Chloe had gotten to me first. It was like that every time. It was as if fate was against her. She was always one step behind Chloe, never quite reaching me in time. The few times she did manage to talk to me, my attention was always on Chloe. After Chloe's relentless pursuit, even though I hadn't given in, Bianca could see that I was starting to fall for her. So, she gave up and loved me from afar in secret. It was a love she could never speak of, so she threw herself into her career, claiming to have no interest in romance. Hearing all this, I searched my memories, and slowly, faintly, I began to remember her face from my past. I had only ever seen her as one of Chloe's friends. I'd never given her a second thought. Now, hearing her confession, I was touched but also terrified. Did I really deserve a love so pure and sincere? I didn't love her. Not yet. My relationship with Chloe had drained me, left me insecure and paranoid. I was terrified of giving my heart to someone again only to have it broken. I couldn't survive another 6 years of that. Bianca must have sensed my fear because she took my hand, her fingers lacing through mine. Her warmth seeped into my skin, and a little bit of the ice around my heart began to melt. "Don't be afraid," she said softly. "Not every relationship has to be a storybook romance. If the love fades, we could just go our separate ways. It's not the end of the world, and you are a good person, Ethan. You are worthy of my love. I love you because I want to. You deserve every good thing in this world." Her eyes were so warm, so gentle, it felt like they could melt a glacier. I didn't speak, but I was deeply moved. Chloe watched us, and the sight was like a knife twisting in her gut. She stared at our clasped hands, her eyes wide with a furious, desperate pain. "Ethan, she's wrong," Chloe cried out, her voice raw. "Love isn't about letting go. It's not about being generous. It's about wanting to possess someone to keep them by your side forever." She fought back tears, a bitter jealousy threatening to consume her. "So, this is what it felt like to see the person you love with someone else. How had he ever endured it?" She couldn't even bear to imagine it. But the memory of him standing before her, his eyes red, his voice breaking as he confronted her, flashed in her mind. He had questioned her, raged at her, been hysterical. And she had found it all so annoying, so different from Leo, who was always so sweet and agreeable. She hadn't understood why he couldn't be more like other husbands, more understanding, more tolerant. But now, experiencing it for herself, she finally understood the pain. She threw her arms around me, pulling me into a desperate, possessive embrace, just like she used to, her lips seeking mine for a frantic, claiming kiss. The sharp crack of a slap echoed in the room. I had hit her hard, sending her head snapping to the side. "Chloe, we're divorced. I don't love you anymore. and I don't want your twisted version of love. You don't love me. You only love yourself. Stop pretending. I shove her away from me with all my strength. Bianca immediately stepped in front of me, her voice like ice. Chloe, Ethan is my boyfriend now. If you try to hurt him, I will make you pay. The Sterling family is not to be trifled with, especially not overseas. Our influence far outweighs yours here. You would do well to remember that. My parents moved to stand with Bianca, shielding me, their faces filled with rage. Chloe, my mother said, we may not have your family's power, but we will die before we let you take our son from us again. You and Ethan are not meant to be. Leave him alone. Get out, my father shouted. If we see you near him again, we'll make you regret it. And with that, my parents, forgetting all decorum, began grabbing plates and bowls from the table and hurling them at her. Chloe didn't even try to dodge. The porcelain shattered against her, one shard cutting her cheek, but she didn't flinch. Didn't make a sound. She just kept staring at me. I'm sorry, Ethan. I really do love you, she said, her voice pleading. Everything with Leo, I can explain. I was a fool. He deceived me. I've already punished him. Please don't be so cruel. Just give me one more chance. I swear I will never hurt you again. If I do, I'll give up everything. No, I'll do it now. I'll transfer my entire fortune to your name. She picked up a sharp piece of broken porcelain and held it to her throat. Then she grabbed my hand and pressed it against hers, forcing me to hold the shard against her skin. A wild, desperate smile twisted her lips. Ethan, if you hate me, then kill me. Just don't push me away. I can't live without you. I can lose everything else, but I can't lose you. Punish me however you want. I'll take it. Lock me in the freezer. Throw me in jail. Beat me. Curse me. I don't care. Just don't leave me. Her words made my skin crawl. I yanked my hand back, not caring that the shard cut her neck as it fell. And in a fit of rage and disgust, I slapped her again. No, it's not okay. I never want to see you again. I hate you, Chloe. If you don't want me to hate you for the rest of my life, then get out of my world and stay out. I shot her one last venomous glare, and, without checking to see how badly she was hurt, I grabbed my parents and Bianca and hurried away. Let's go, I said, my voice shaking. I can't be around that psycho. My parents and Bianca tried to soothe me as we walked away. Our figures receded into the distance, leaving Chloe alone in the wreckage of the room. She clutched her bleeding neck and began to laugh. Ethan, why didn't you just kill me? It would have been a fitting atonement. Why did you let me live? You still care about me, don't you? I'm going to believe that you still care. If you tell yourself a lie enough times, you might even start to believe it. But deep down, she knew the truth. I didn't love her anymore. So what was she supposed to do? She was still so deeply in love with me. A bitter despair filled her heart. She was losing a lot of blood. Her vision swam, and a chill spread through her body. Just as she thought she was about to die, someone lifted her up. She forced her heavy eyelids open. It wasn't me. It was a bodyguard she didn't recognize. Of course, it wasn't Ethan. He wouldn't come back for her. With that thought, her eyes closed and she lost consciousness. When she woke up, she was no longer in the restaurant. She was in a pitch-black room, so dark she couldn't see a thing. As she tried to get her bearings, an image was projected onto the wall in front of her. On the left, a photo of her kissing Leo. On the right, a photo of me kissing Bianca. The two photos were a perfect, ironic mirror of each other. Even in her disoriented state, Chloe knew this was Bianca's doing. It wasn't just one photo. Bianca was just getting started. For every intimate photo of Chloe and Leo that appeared, a matching photo of me and Bianca would appear beside it. The endless stream of images was a torment to Chloe's eyes, and each one felt like a hot poker to her heart. Her eyes red with rage, she pounded her fists against the wall. Stop it. Make it stop. But no matter how much she screamed, the slideshow continued. Each new image another twist of the knife. It was as if the photos were speaking to her. Why do you have to be jealous? You did all of these things to him. Why is it so unbearable when the tables are turned? He suffered like this. Now it's your turn. The images were a waking nightmare, burned into her vision. Even when she closed her eyes, she could still see them. After what felt like an eternity, she collapsed, consumed by guilt, whispering his name over and over. I'm sorry, Ethan. I'm so sorry. But her apologies didn't stop the torment. Drenched in a cold sweat, she stumbled through the darkness, trying to escape the images. She found a bathroom, and when she looked at her reflection, she was filled with a profound self-loathing. She turned the shower on, the water as hot as she could stand it, and began to scrub her skin over and over as if she could wash away her sins. I'm not dirty, Ethan, she mumbled, her voice hollow. I'll never touch anyone but you again. I'm not dirty. The torture finally ended. When they let her out, her eyes were vacant, her entire being radiating a desolate emptiness. People on the street stared at her, but she didn't notice. She spent the next few days recovering, but her assistant kept sending her work. She was so busy, she didn't have a moment to spare to look for me. When she finally cleared her desk, she allowed herself a moment to breathe. She called her assistant, "Get Leo out of prison. Bring him to me." A day later, a skeletal, barely recognizable Leo stood before her. His body was a roadmap of scars. His once smooth skin was completely ruined. He was ghost pale, his eyes vacant and numb. He looked at Chloe without a flicker of recognition or emotion. His time in prison had been a living hell. The other inmates had been given special instructions to take good care of him. Chloe felt no pity. She nodded, satisfied. "You're coming with me to apologize to Ethan." "Okay," he said, his voice a rasp. He followed her without a word. She had been having me followed, so she knew exactly where to find me. She knocked on the door of my new home. There was no answer. She wasn't worried. She just waited. That evening, when Bianca and I returned, she and Leo were there to meet us. "Ethan, look," she said, gesturing to Leo. "He's paid for what he did to you tenfold. I don't love him anymore. He can tell you himself." Leo nodded numbly. "I will never disrespect Mr. Miller again. Ms. Vanderbilt belongs only to him. I will never hurt him again. I am a sinner. I deserve to be punished." He recited the words as if he had rehearsed them 1,000 times. Hearing his robotic confession sent a chill down my spine. I hated Leo, but I knew the real villain was Chloe. Seeing him so broken and scarred, I was reminded of how I had felt, and any desire for revenge I might have had vanished. I looked at Chloe, a familiar fear creeping back into my heart, and I took a step back. "Chloe, I don't need this. What he did to me should be punished. Yes, but the person who truly needs to atone for their sins is you. You terrify me. When you cared about him, you tortured me. Now that you care about me again, you torture him. What happens next? Will you find someone new and torture me again? Even worse this time? Your love is a horror story, and I want no part in it." "No, I wouldn't. I just wanted him to make things right," she explained, flustered. She started to move toward me, but stopped when she saw the fear in my eyes. "If you want me to atone, I will. I'll do anything." Bianca put a comforting arm around me. "Don't worry," she murmured. "I'll never let her hurt you again." Then she turned to Chloe, her face like stone. "Do you even believe the words coming out of your own mouth, Chloe? If you really wanted to atone, would you need someone's permission? Or are you just a coward?" Before Chloe could answer, Bianca continued, "It doesn't matter if you're willing or not. I'm sending you to atone right now." On her signal, several large men stepped forward, bound Chloe's hands, and dragged her toward a waiting car. Chloe didn't fight back. She just looked at me, her eyes filled with a deep sorrow. "Ethan, the only reason I didn't punish myself was because I wanted to find you, to apologize, to be with you. But if this is what you want, I will accept it." They threw her in the car and drove away. I watched until the car was out of sight. "Where are you sending her?" I asked Bianca. "A local prison," she said calmly. "I've made arrangements. She will pay for every single thing she did to you." I nodded. I didn't care what happened to Chloe. She owed me this. It was only fair. But with Chloe gone, Leo seemed lost, unsure of what to do. After a moment of panic, a flicker of hope appeared in his eyes. He looked at Bianca, and some of his old charm seemed to return. He struck a pose, trying to find his best angle, and said in a soft, pleading voice, "Miss, could you help me and my parents? Chloe has my parents trapped in a hospital, forcing them to donate blood. They're old. They can't take much more of it. Please have mercy. I'll do anything you want, anything. His words were laced with innuendo, his eyes trying to convey a seductive promise. He seemed to have forgotten that his time in prison had ruined his voice. It was now a hoarse, unpleasant rasp. I wasn't angry or jealous. I was just curious. I watched them both, waiting to see how Bianca would react. If she fell for his pathetic act, just like Chloe had, then there was no future for us, and I would still get half her fortune. But Bianca's expression was cool, her voice calm. I'm not a savior. I can't help you. The only person who can save you and your parents is you. You have 2 hands and 2 feet. Go earn some money and save it yourself. With that, she took my hand and led me toward our house, not giving him a second glance. But the moment the door closed behind us, Bianca pushed me against it, her lips finding mine in a kiss that was both controlled and wild. You enjoyed that little show, didn't you? She whispered in my ear, her voice a low, seductive murmur. This is your punishment. She nipped my earlobe, sending a shiver down my spine. Then she kissed me again, leading me by the hand toward the bedroom. I'm not like Chloe, Ethan, she said as we walked. I cherish you. If I were the type to be seduced by any pretty face that came along, I wouldn't have been single for all those years. Outside, Leo stood alone. A cold wind blew, mocking him. He wandered aimlessly until he passed a fountain. He glanced at his reflection in the water and recoiled in horror. Leo covered his face and screamed, a raw, unhinged sound. He couldn't believe the horrifying reflection staring back at him from the water was his own. During his years in prison, he'd had no time or energy for his appearance. Old injuries were constantly replaced by new ones. His wounds had never been properly treated. He, who had once prized his handsome face above all else, was now a monster. He didn't understand how it had all gone so wrong. It wasn't just his own suffering. His parents were in constant agony. While he was in prison, someone had shown him pictures of them. The stress, the worry, and the forced blood donations had taken their toll. They looked 20 years older. They were only in their 50s, but their hair was white and their faces were etched with deep lines. And now he was just as broken. Leo was consumed by a regret so profound it was a physical ache. If only he hadn't been so greedy. If he hadn't thrown himself in front of Chloe's car. If he hadn't agreed to be her boy toy. If he hadn't framed Ethan over and over. But it was too late for regrets. There was no going back. And the most pathetic part? He had just tried to use this ruined face to seduce another woman. But what else could he do? He was utterly desperate. Seduction was the only skill he had. He was ruined. His life was over. Boston City Jail. Bianca's bodyguard, acting as a temporary guard, stood nearby, watching coldly as Chloe was tormented. With a dull thud, a large blonde inmate slammed his fist into Chloe's side. She didn't struggle or fight back. She just took the blow in silence. The truth was, she could have left this place at any time. She had the money and the skills to bribe or fight her way out. If it became too much, she could have simply surrendered to Bianca's guard and asked to be released. But Chloe did none of that. Only the sharp sting of pain reminded her that she was still alive. Perhaps she had already gone mad. The moment she realized I would never forgive her, her life had become nothing but a grim act of endurance. She was just like her father, a monster who would stop at nothing to get what she wanted. But her regret was real. After weeks in that jail, Chloe didn't feel despair like Leo had. Instead, she grew accustomed to the abuse. The physical pain no longer registered. It couldn't make her feel alive anymore. Her body ached, but her soul was dead. She was completely numb. Finally, one day, she slipped past the guards and walked out of the prison. She followed her memory to the house I shared with Bianca and knocked. But the person who answered was not me, Bianca, or my parents. It was a young man she had never seen before. "Can I help you?" he asked, frowning. Chloe's dark eyes bored into him. She grabbed his collar. "Where's Ethan? Where did he go? He used to live here." She shoved the startled man aside and left without another word, heading straight for the airport to fly back to the States. That day, a rumor spread like wildfire through New York's elite. Chloe Vanderbilt's ex-husband was now dating Bianca Sterling, the Sterling heiress, and Chloe was so desperate to win him back, she was willing to be the other woman. The gossip was everywhere, and people even started gathering outside the Sterling estate, hoping for a spectacle. Outside the gates of the Sterling estate, Chloe stood in the pouring rain, ignoring the gawking onlookers. Her eyes, burning with a feverish intensity, were locked on me. "I'm not giving up, Ethan," she called out. "You belong to me. I'm afraid I can't let you do that," Bianca replied, her voice cold. As she spoke, an armored car pulled up and several armed soldiers disembarked, surrounding Chloe. Bianca linked her arm through mine, a triumphant smirk on her face. "You should be more careful about whose boyfriend you try to steal," she said, "especially when she's the head of a classified national security project." I looked at Chloe, my face a cold mask. "Don't come here again, Chloe. Nothing you do will ever make me forgive you. You're just becoming an annoyance." My parents nodded in agreement, their faces etched with impatience. "It doesn't matter how much you beg. We will never forgive you," my mother said. "You almost killed us. Go back to your life, Chloe. Go back to your boy toys. We don't care how many men you keep. Just stay away from our family." Chloe lowered her gaze, thinking to herself, "I don't want anyone else. I only want you." But it was no use. The soldiers led her away. From then on, there were always guards stationed outside the Vanderbilt Tower, a constant reminder to keep her away from me. After that, business associates, hearing the rumors of her chaotic love life, started sending her gifts of a certain kind. Handsome young men, many of whom bore a passing resemblance to me. Chloe turned every single one of them away. She knew she had lost me forever, but she was determined not to make another mistake she would regret for the rest of her life. If she had to be alone forever, so be it.